Alright, Shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. I'm finna do this video on how the Hebrews always wanted to go back to Egypt. Always wanted to go back to Egypt. And this can be seen in the Tanakh history, how we always wanted to go back to Egypt. And we eventually went back to Egypt. It's the reason why the Creator said He would send us to Egypt in ships. And all the Hebrews should know from watching previous videos that I have proved that America is the Egypt that the Creator said He would send us to. You know, as well as other parts too. But the Egyptian system and the Egyptian, everything that the Egyptians had on us, these folks got on us too. And some of the key things that was taken from Egypt was that obelisk right there. That obelisk right there come from Heliopolis, On, where the priest of On was, where they tricked Joseph and gave him that Egyptian woman Asenath. That statue right there is a picture, a statue of Necho. Necho is the Pharaoh that killed King Josiah. That obelisk right there was erected around about 1450 BC when we went into bondage in Egypt. When we went into bondage, not when we first got there, but when we went into bondage, probably not a week, a month, probably during the same hour, they throwed that obelisk up right there. And when we got free of the Egyptian religion after King Josiah cleaned it up, they put, that statue of that fella, Necho. He killed King Josiah and put us back on the Egyptian religion, and we went into Africa, into Egypt, and we was enslaved. And I'm going to show from biblical verses how we always wanted to go to Egypt, even after we left, and how we gave the prophet Moses a hard time during our exodus, and how we always said that we wanted to go back to Egypt, and how we looked at Egypt as a place of refuge, even after being enslaved there. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like how we are now, And the Egyptians, basically stole or tried to steal the people's soul. Like now, even after slavery, and, I know that we don't have no means, but we should have the mentality to want to leave and go back to places where we originated at, and that America is not our homeland, and that it is a proven fact that the promised land is our homeland. I even show through social media where the prophet Israel, our father Jacob, bought land there in Shechem from the Homer and them, and how we do have a possession there, and how that land do belong to us. Okay, this is what I want to show. I want to show us Hebrews wanting to go back into Africa all the time. If you go to Exodus 16:3, this is doing our exodus, even after we done been in all that hardship in Egypt, and how them folks dogged us out. I guess we was familiar with Egypt. They had the music, they had the dancing, and and they had food, and all we had to do was worship their God, and the Egyptians would have been cool with us, but that wasn't our purpose, and that wasn't what the Creator created us for. He created us to get rid of that Mesopotamian, Canaanite, Egyptian culture that existed from Egypt all the way to Babylon. All the way to Babylon. Alright, man, if you look at 16 3, we had, come from Egypt, and we was in the wilderness, and we was murmuring against prophet Moses, and we was giving him a hard time. And Exodus 16. And they took their journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came unto the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai. The Sinai Mountains, on the 15th day of the 2nd month, after they departed out of the land of Egypt. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said unto them, Would to Yah we had died by the hand of the Elohim in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full. For you have brought us forth into the wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. See, right there, we wanted to go to Egypt. You know what I'm saying? We ain't been too long left Egypt. And after what they did to us, we shouldn't have never even thought about wanting to return back to Egypt. But, as I'm showing, as soon as we had hard times, thought, that it was bad for us, Egypt, Africa was our first thought. And that's where we wanted to run to. Okay, if you go to Exodus 17:3. Now that was about some food, and the Creator made the food come about. Them quails, and they got to eating and stuff. But they rebelled big time against Prophet Moses. All right, if you go to 17:3, I think this about some water. You know what I'm saying? And all the congregation of the children of Israel journeyed from the wilderness of Sin after their journey according to the commandment of the Elohim, and pitched in Rephidim. And there was no water for the people to drink. Wherefore the people did chid Moses, making fun of him, and said, Give us water that we may drink. And Moses said unto them, Why chid ye with me? Wherefore ye tempt the Elohim? Let me see. And the people thirst there for water, and the people murmured against Moses. Wherefore that thou hast brought us up out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our cattle with thirst. Right there, we want to go to Egypt. You know what I'm saying? If you turn to Numbers, man, I think it's Numbers 14. Numbers 14. Numbers 14:4. All right, here's another event. And the people murmured against Moses. We was giving Moses a hard time. And all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept that night. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron. And the whole congregation said unto them, Would Yah that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would Yah had died in the wilderness? And wherefore had the Elohim brought us unto this land to fall by the sword, that our wives and our children should be a prey? Were it not better for us to return into Egypt? To return back to Egypt. And they said one to another, Let us make captain, and let us return into Egypt. See, we had seen them Canaanites, and we had seen them Canaanites and them Amalekites, and they had a little military structure. The Canaanites had a civilization that stretched it from Egypt to Babylon, from Egypt to Mesopotamia, and that's what we were supposed to be getting rid of. And so they had military, they had polices, they had everything. Matter of fact, this system that we got now is a copy of the Egyptian Babylonian system. Same thing in how they govern and how they function and how they worship and everything. We up under their system. Okay. So, we had seen them Amalekites and their structure and how they was militarily. And we got scared and we gave Moses a hard time. And we said, let us return back to Egypt. You know what I'm saying? If you go to Numbers 16:13. Alright, 16:13. All right, and this time they was rebelling against Moses. This is Korah, and you know what I'm saying. They sons, the one Dothan and Abraham, and they sons, that family and that group rebelled against Prophet Moses and tried to erect themselves and tried to take over the priesthood. And Prophet Moses made the ground open up, you know what I'm saying, from the Creator and swallowed them down. I believe that's where that hell gonna come from, because they got swallowed down into a pit, and then got some fire and stuff came and got them and stuff. So that's gonna be originally what the Jews took the Tanakh history and created that hell myth from it. You know, but if you look at 16:13, you know what I'm saying? You know, I could read the whole thing. Is it a small thing that thou hast brought us up out of that land floweth with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, except thou make thyself altogether a prince over us? You know, so they were saying that, you know, that Egypt was the land of milk and honey, and that Prophet Moses, brung us up out of there to suffer, and they was bucking him, and they say, oh, that you ain't the leader over us, and we picking our own leaders. Well, they got their mouth tore out. Take mouth toe out big time for that. You know what I'm saying? We know everything Prophet Moses said from back then to now that came to pass. So you can imagine what happened to them. Okay, if you go to Numbers 20 verse 5. 20 verse 5, we always bucking Prophet Moses. You know what I'm saying? I can read this. Then came the children of Israel, even the whole congregation, into the desert of Zin in the first month, and the people abode in Kadesh. And Miriam died there, and was buried there. And there was no water for the congregation. And they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron. And the people cheated with Moses and spake, saying, would Yah that we had died when our brethren died before the Elohim, talking about the ones that went down in the pit. And why have ye brought up the congregation of the Elohim into this wilderness, that we and our cattle should die there? Wherefore have ye made us to come up out of Egypt, to bring us unto this evil place? It is no place of seed, or of fig, or of vines, or of pomegranates, neither is there any water to drink. We didn't have no vision. You know, he already told us he was finna give us some land flowing with milk and honey. So, you know, we had to probably go to some difficulties to get there. Ain't nothing just given to you, and it's just, you know, in your hands for the goodness. Sometimes you got to put in some work for it, and we didn't realize that. You know, we was so stuck on Egypt and what Egypt had to offer us, that we kind of like, you know, didn't believe in the promised land that the Creator was giving us. And then the job that we had to do was to get rid of them Canaanites. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We would rather be friends with everybody. And that's been our doom, just like now. We would rather be friends with everybody, even if it's to our doom. We don't care, but we'll kill and we'll dog each other out. You know, we got all them bad habits from being in Egypt. Because before we came to Egypt with our father Israel, we didn't get down against each other. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't fight against each other. And we didn't have those bad traits. But after leaving Egypt, it seemed like all Egypt wickedness came with us. And we've been plagued with it ever since. Alright, you see how the people, you know, steady wanting to go to Egypt. Steady want to go to Egypt. Alright, now if you go to let's go to King David, because King David gathered us from Egypt when he was bringing the ark, you know what I'm saying, to the promised land. Well, they don't, you know what I'm saying, that ain't too much important. Alright, so let's go to the prophet Jeremiah, because this gonna be in our last days. And this was kind of so important about this video, is that it show you that, you know, that we always wanted to go back into Africa as soon as we had any hard times. And hard times came when the Creator sent the Scythians, who's, you know what I'm saying, Ashkenazi, whose code name is Scythian, when the Creator sent for them to chase us up off the land, where do you think we went to? We went into Africa, the Sahara. And that's what the whole book of Jeremiah is about. The whole book of Jeremiah is about us, the Creator saying, hey, stay here and don't go into Africa, into Egypt to live, but stay here on this promised land that I gave you. And we said, no, we going back to Egypt. We going back to Africa, the Sahara, to live, because then we had food, water, and bread, and we didn't see no evil. And that's where we went. And guess what? We was enslaved from there and brought to the Americas, fulfilling all the curses that the Creator said would take place once we broke the covenant. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Okay, if you go to Jeremiah chapter 44. Jeremiah chapter 44. All right. Jeremiah chapter 44. Jeremiah chapter 44. Yeah, Hebrews, we always wanted to go back to Egypt, and we thought Egypt and Africa was safe for us, and that's what we was falling, into the trap that the Creator wanted us to think that we'll be comfortable and safe there, and that's where everything came down on us at. Everything came down on us at. And you see right now today, them Africans ain't trying to bring us over there. They ain't trying to have nothing to do with us. If one make it over there, you cool. But they ain't trying to come and get us, and they ain't trying to do nothing with us, because they know the Creator's wrath was on us, and they don't want no dealings with us. But everybody gonna want to be down with us after we wake up and realize, what we going through. All right, if you go to chapter 44, verse 18. But since we left off to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. Okay, that was talking about going back to Egypt, but it's going to be 43. 43. All right, chapter 43. All right, here we go. When we was chased out the land by Ashkenazi, the Scythians. Ashkenazi code name in history. Ashkenazi code name in history is Scythian, and them gonna be the people that chased us up off the promised land. Them gonna be the people that chased us up off the promised land in the book of Jeremiah, and they settled in Scythopolis. Them gonna be the people that chased us out the promised land in the book of Jeremiah. They made up the Babylonian army. They was the Scythians. They had destroyed Assyria. And then they came to get us. And then when they came to get us, it wasn't nothing nice. The Creator sent for some people that we ain't never seen before, and they behaved terribly. And them folks, after they came to our land, it was basically over with, and the warfare that they put on us, we couldn't deal with. It was a whole new kind of warfare, and those people wasn't playing, and they rode on horses, and the horses, when they rode on them, they would have their body parts. You know what I'm saying? They have horses with body parts on there. And them body parts, would be the victims and the people that they done killed and stuff. And they'll ride around with them, the Scythians, Ashkenazi, and they beginning. And then they will make clothes out your skin. When they captured you and stuff, you see that they'll cut your skin off and make a quiver out of it to put their arrows in there. And then they'll use your skin for patches and stuff. And then when them folks came and got us and stuff, they would come down out the mountains with the bear skins and animal skulls on their head and stuff. And then they'll ride down on you with them axes, with them horses, with them big old axes, and cut you up. And then they'll put your body parts on the horse and they ride around with them. That's what the Scythians did. And them the kind of people that was sent to get us up off the land. It wasn't no joke. Laugh at them. But I know the history and I know what the people went through. It was awful. And we had to come up off that land. And guess where we went? We went to Egypt because that's where we said that we wanted to go from the beginning. You know, we been said we wanted to go from the beginning. And when those Scythians, them people that come and cut you up and put your body parts on their horse, and then they had arrowheads that had hollow points in it. Yeah, they had arrowheads that had hollow points in it. And then when they shoot you, man, you know what I'm saying, them things break off in you, and we couldn't deal with that. So it was easier for us to go back to Egypt. But guess what made us have to get up off the land? Is because after King Josiah was killed, you see, it was a strategic move. You see, and that Pharaoh and them couldn't do no trade across the promised land. You see, the Egyptians couldn't come across the promised land just because they wanted to when we was on the covenant. That was trespassing, especially an idol worshiping nation, and we were supposed to be some Egyptian religion killers that the Egyptians couldn't come across. So, you know, they killed King Josiah. It was our last chance to get right. And then they put his son Jehoiakim and them on the throne. And then we went back to Egyptian religion. And then the Creator sent those people after us, them Scythians, them folks that rode around with them body parts on their horses, sent them to get us. And we come up off the land. See what I'm saying? We come up off the land. You know what I'm saying? We wasn't finna deal with them folks riding around inside them animal carcasses and stuff. See, it's a dude inside there. And then when them folks came on them horses, it was awful. And then they had bear skins, coyote skins, skunk skins, and everything. And then they chased us into Africa. And we got on down. You know, and this the thing about that. You know, it's like Egypt is the Sahara. Egypt is the Sahara. And when we went to Egypt saying that we was going to Egypt, we was slick saying that we was going into the Sahara. And that's what we did. Yeah, we went into the Sahara because it was safe. You know, when we said that we going to Egypt to live, we was slick saying that we was going to the Sahara to stay. That's all we ever know. And we could see from Prophet Abraham when he first came into Canaan, I think it was a famine in the land. That's the first place he went, was to Egypt. We know that when there was a famine in the land in Canaan, that's the first place our father Jacob sent his sons down to buy grain to in Egypt. So everybody, soon as something happened, that's where we wanted to go, was Egypt. And that's a proven fact. And can't nothing change that. Can't nothing change that. Can't nobody change that. You know, and that the Hebrews always wanted to go to Egypt and Africa. And I'm going to show this some more. Okay. If you go to Jeremiah, all right, you know what I'm saying, I'm supposed to show them those arrowheads. You know what I'm saying? Those are the arrowheads in the places where the Scythians shot, you know, the promised land up. You know what I'm saying? To get us up off the land. To get us into Africa. So we can go on and get them curses and go on and get this over with. And then that's what happened to us. You know, that's why come when them brothers be spitting that 10 lost tribe mess, they spitting pure garbage, because all the Hebrews ran into Africa, and I got videos showing this. Okay, if you look at Jeremiah, this is our last time on the land. He our last prophet for the 99%. Jeremiah was our last prophet, and after Jeremiah, it was over with. We was gone off into Africa, and we didn't see no more prophets. And that's why come we don't have no prophets now. And that's why come we in the conditions that we in now. All right, and it come to pass that when Jeremiah had made an end of speaking unto all the people in the words of the Elohim their Yah, for which the Elohim their Yah had sent him to them, even all these words. Then spake Azariah the son of Hoshea, and Johanan the son of Ker, and all the proud men, saying unto Jeremiah, Thou speakest falsely. The Elohim our Yah hath not sent thee to us, to say, Go not into Egypt to sojourn there. But Baruch the son of Ner setteth thee on against us, for to deliver us into the hand of the Chaldeans, that they may put us to death and carry us away captive to Babylon. You see what I'm saying? So, that'd have been them folks there, and we knew that when them folks put you to death, that 9 out of 10, you was going to end up on a horse as some body parts, or you was going to have your skin made into a jacket or a quiver or something. And that's how Ashkenazi got down, and they smoked it weed. They smoked it plenty of weed, so they ain't care nothing about splitting your head. Alright? And then that's what they would look like. They'll come down out of nowhere on horses, looking like that, inside them skeletons. So we would get on down. We would get on down into Africa. And they shot the whole places up with arrowheads, that there was so many of them that they still finding them today. They still finding the arrowheads today. Okay, so, as you see that we wanted to get into Africa, and then this is what we said to Prophet Jeremiah, our last little speech. And if you go to Jeremiah chapter 44, verse 15, 16, 17, and 18, it was a state of mind. You know what I'm saying? And it was a state of mind that we never departed from the time that we left Egypt. Alright. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burnt incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by a great multitude, even all the people that dwell in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do so whatever thing go forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, and our princes in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. But since for then had we plenty of food, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and we have been consumed by the sword and by famine. And then we took off into Egypt. If you go to 2 Kings, it's going to be 2 Kings, verse 25. Verse 25, verse 26. Alright. And all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the armies, arose and came to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldeans. That was our last time on the promised land. And to show you how dirty that the Egyptian was, it was this prophet that had the same speech that prophet Jeremiah had, and he was telling us, don't go to Egypt. And that them Scythians, the Chaldeans, was coming, and they was gonna burn the land up. And then he didn't have nowhere to run to, and he was forced to run to Egypt. And then the Egyptians captured him and turned him back over to Jehoiakim, and Jehoiakim killed him. And this was a prophet that went to Egypt. Now, I done already stated how the Egyptians killed King Josiah. This is gonna be Jehoiakim's father, and put us on the Egyptian religion. Well, here is a good prophet saying that the Scythians and the folks was gonna come, and we should have cleaned up. And he was forced to run to Egypt because there wasn't nowhere else to run to. He couldn't run to Babylon. He couldn't run nowhere. Wickedness everywhere. So he had to run to Egypt, and the Egyptians captured him and turned him over to Jehoiakim, and they put him to death. All right. If you go to Jeremiah 26, verse 20, and there was a And there was also a man that prophesied in the name of the Elohim, Urijah, the son of Shemiah of Kirjatharim, who prophesied against this city and against this land according to all the words of Jeremiah. And when Jehoiakim the king with all his mighty men and all the princes heard his words, the king sought to put him to death. But when Urijah heard it, and he was afraid, and fled and went into Egypt, into Africa. And Jehoiakim the king sent men into Egypt, namely Nathan to the son of Archer, and certain men with him into Egypt. And they fetched forth Urijah out of Egypt, and brought him into Jehoiakim the king, who slew him with the sword, and cast his dead body into the graves of the common people. Man, that was so wicked and dirty and low down what Jehoiakim did. Okay, and then if we go back some, all right, this is during Solomon time, and how Jeroboam was chased into Egypt, and how Pharaoh opened his arms up to him and let him on in there, because when Jeroboam come out of Egypt, he gonna bring them 2 golden calves that's gonna stay on us for 300 years, from 931 BC until King Josiah cleaned it up. 300 years later, maybe around by 631 BC, he was born, and then he started to clean the Egyptian religion up that Jeroboam brought out of Egypt from Solomon chasing him there. And we stayed clean off the Egyptian religion for about 30 years, and then the Egyptians killed King Josiah, and then put his sons on the throne, and then they go to the wickedness, and then the Scythians came, them folks that collect body parts and put them on their horses, and then we was chased off the land into Africa, and we stayed there until the transatlantic slave trade started, and here we are now, trying to pick the pieces up. Well, the pieces picked up now because we got the history down pat. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. All right. Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam, and Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt unto Shushan, the king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. You see what I'm saying? So everybody be fleeing to Egypt. Everybody be fleeing to Egypt and Solomon let all the wickedness in. He had an Egyptian wife. So, the Egyptians was trying to destroy us. And this is what a prophet said after Jeroboam went into Egypt, and then he came out, and then he put them 2 golden calves on us. All right, wherefore the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. 2 golden calves. 2 golden calves. And he said the one in Bethel, and the other put he in Dan, from the whole northern kingdom, from Dan to from Bethel to Dan. And I'm gonna show you that King Josiah cleaned up the whole Israel, 300 years later. And this was the prophecy for him. All right, and behold, there came a man of Yah out of Judah by the word of the Elohim unto Bethel, and Jeroboam stood by the altar to burn incense. And he cried against the altar in the word of the Elohim, and said, O altar, altar, this saith the Elohim, behold, a child shall be born unto the house of David, Josiah by name, and upon thee shall he offer the priests of the high places that burn incense upon thee, and men's bones shall he burn upon thee. All right, he was born, and guess what? He did just that. Man, he did just that. All right, if you go to 2 Chronicles 30 and 2 Chronicles 34, and this also show you that it wasn't no 10 lost tribes too. Whenever you're dealing with the kings, you know what I'm saying, you're going to find out some real history. All right, if you go to 34. All right, this was around about 640 BC. Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 130 years, and he did that which was right in the sight of the Elohim, and walked in the ways of David his father, and declined neither to the right hand or to the left. For in the 8th year of his reign, while he was yet young, he began to seek after the Elohim of David, the Yah of David his father. And in the 12th year he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem from the high places, in the groves, in the carved images, in the molten images. And they break down the altar of the Lamb in his presence, and the images that were on high above them. He cut down in the groves, in the carved images, in the molten images. He brake in pieces and made dust of them, and stowed it upon the graves of them that had sacrificed unto them. And he burnt the bones of the priests upon their altars, and cleansed Judah and Jerusalem. And so did he in the cities of Manasseh, Ephraim, and Naphtali, even with their mattocks round about. And when he had break down the altars and the groves, and had beaten the graven images to powder, and cut down all the idols throughout all the land of Israel, he returned to Jerusalem. See? So, you know what I'm saying? There wasn't no 10 lost tribes, too. All right, after that, the prophet Jeremiah was around. And the Egyptians come out trying to go across the promised land to help them Assyrians who was being killed by these folks right here. They done destroyed Assyria. You know, I got videos about King Midas and what he was really sent for, and how he gathered all them nations together, and then how they destroyed Assyria. Well, them folks destroyed Assyria, the Scythians, you know, under the name Chaldean. You know, they made up the Chaldean army. They had been took Chaldea over, and then they went and destroyed Assyria, knocked a hole in them, ethnic, cleansed them, cut their heads off, destroyed Assyria. And then they made a beeline straight for us. And then that's what the book of Jeremiah is about, telling the people that them folks is coming, and that them folks is finna get us. And we didn't want to believe him. You know what I'm saying? We said, nah, man, them folks, ain't nobody gonna come get us here. Ain't nobody gonna come get us here. That's what we said. And guess what? Them folks came and got us. Them folks came and got us. Them folks riding around with them body parts and them body parts and everything on their bodies riding. You know what I'm saying? Coming to get us. And then they came and got us. And that's what the whole book of Jeremiah is about. And when you go to the first part of Jeremiah, he gonna tell you that he was around during King Josiah's time. All right, in the word of Jeremiah, the son of Halakah, of the priests that were in Anath in the land of Benjamin, to whom the word of the Elohim came in the days of Josiah, the son of Amon, king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. So, you know, he started cleaning up Judah in the 12th year. So in the 13th year, by the time he done went to Israel to clean up, prophet Jeremiah is there. You know, and it come also in the days of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, unto the end of the 11th year of Zedekiah, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, unto the carrying away of Jerusalem captive in the 5th year. All right, you know, we got on into Egypt, and they kidnapped the little 1%, and I got videos explaining what happened to them and how they was destroyed. How they was destroyed because they started mixing with them folks, folks in the land that we wasn't supposed to mix with. All right, so, you know, the Israelites, we always wanted to go to Egypt. We always wanted to go to Egypt. And whenever we thought that we was in some trouble, you know what I'm saying, that's the first place that we headed to was Egypt. And when we went into Africa, man, I got videos explaining how we abandoned our heritage to the Sephardi Jews under the name Sepharavim. You know, Sepharavim is their real name. And how we abandoned our heritage to them. And how that word Jew come from Jebusites, and how they Amorites, and how the people that was placed in our land, they got our heritage when we was chased up off the land during the Babylonian wars. You know, these people was placed in our land during the Assyrian troubles, and they stayed quiet and didn't make no noise, and then watched us get played about the promised land. And then when we got played about the promised land, being that they were scribes and held control of the whole Babylonian history since its beginning, and held all the all the administration of his kings, keeping his history of his gods. They the founders of the whole Western civilization. Amorite means Westerner. So, the history from Babylon and the people from Babylon predates us. Predates us by a couple of thousands of years. So these folks then had game popping experience on how to pop game and trap people and everything with their governments, and how they are the only ones that wrote the history and that write the history for the West. Can't no history be wrote for the Western civilization without them putting their spin on it, and what's accepted as Western civilization and the truth come from the colleges and the universities that they develop. And we got to break away from that stuff now, because we coming into heritage, and everything that they've been teaching and have taught while we was out of heritage has been a lie. And the only truth that you have is the Tanakh history that they done translated and try to get it all mixed up. But it's too late now. You know what I'm saying? We know what happened to us. All right, Ashkenazi, code name in history, is Scythian. And the Scythians made up the Chaldean army. And those are the people that destroyed Assyria and chased us up off the promised land. Them gonna be the people that rode around with the body parts on their horses. And them gonna be the people that made skin, took your skin and made a quiver and bags and stuff out of it. And we abandon our heritage to those folks. To them too, because when we got chased up out the land, it wasn't nobody but Ashkenazi and the Sephardi groups there. And Ashkenazi settled in the Discopolis cities, and then that's who Jesus would spend his whole time. That's who Jesus would spend his whole time dealing with, is the Scythians in the Discopolis cities. And that's who Jesus spent his whole time with. Jesus spent his whole time in their synagogues. They had all the synagogues, because after they chased us into Egypt, into Africa, into the Sahara, then they settled in Scythopolis, in the Discopolis cities. And they had a weed smoking culture. And that's who Jesus had as members. All his members, 85% of them, 95% of them come from the Discopolis cities. And how he spent all his time with them. Those gonna be the Scythians. And I got the videos explaining how Jesus come out of Egypt, with that Egyptian mystery stuff from the from Melchizedek school in Egypt, and how he put, how he was a high priest, a parable high priest in the Melchizedek school, and how he settled in the Discopolis, and how he just taught them and food with them only, from Galilee and the Discopolis. That's where the Scythians settled at, the people that chased us into Africa during the Babylonian wars. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. You ain't gonna get this history from them other groups. Subscribe on YouTube so you can stay informed, because there's gonna be times I ain't gonna post videos on the other social medias but YouTube. Shalom to the Hebrews. Now I done showed how we had a long history from the time that we exodus to the time that we was kicked off the promised land, how we wanted to go into Africa and live. And that's what we did. It wasn't no lost tribes. I done showed that. And to back that up, let me just show you with King Hezekiah. This is going to be King Josiah's great-grandfather. This is in 715 BC. This is 7 years after the so-called Assyrian wars, and how the tribes were still there in the promised land. So it never was any 10 lost tribes. And Hezekiah sent to all Israel in Judah and wrote letters unto Ephraim and Manasseh that they should come to the house of the Elohim at Jerusalem to keep the Passover unto the Elohim Yah of Israel. For the king had taken counsel and his princes and all the congregation in Jerusalem to keep the Passover in the second month, for they could not keep it at that time, because the priests had not sanctified themselves sufficiently, neither had the people gathered themselves to Jerusalem. And the thing pleased the king and all the congregation. So they established a decree to make proclamation throughout all Israel from Beersheba even to Dan, that they should come to keep the Passover unto the Elohim Yah of Israel as at Jerusalem, for they had not done it of a long time in such sort as it was written. So the post went with the letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel and Judah, according to the commandment of the king, saying, Ye children of Israel, turn again unto the Elohim Yah of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remain of you that are escaped out of the hands of the king of Assyria. Then he go down to name some of the tribes. So the post passed from city to city through the country of Ephraim, Manasseh, even to Zebulun. But they laughed them to scorn and mocked them. Nevertheless, the verses of Asher, Manasseh, and Zebulun humbled themselves and came to Jerusalem. All right, and then as you read on, then you get over here to 18. For a multitude of the people, for many of Ephraim, Manasseh, Ishkar, Zebulun had not cleansed themselves, yet they did eat the Passover, otherwise that it was written. But Hezekiah prayed for them, saying, The good Elohim pardon everyone. So that was in 715 BC. So King Josiah named all the rest of the tribes that wasn't mentioned. If you 34 all the way down to 6, so did he in the cities of Manasseh, Ephraim, and Simon, even unto Naphtali with their mattocks round about. All right, so all the tribes is there. And if you remember that King Hezekiah said from Bathsheba to Dan that he sent the letter, so that's the whole inheritance. That's the whole inheritance. And then you can see that right here. That's the whole inheritance. There go Bathsheba. And then he sent the letters everywhere throughout the whole community all the way to Dan. You see what I'm saying? So it wasn't no 10 lost tribes. And then the Egyptians would come kill King Josiah and put us on the Egyptian religion, and we would go into Africa during the Babylonian wars like we always wanted to do. Like I just showed all them verses of us wanting to go into Africa and live. And that was one of the reasons why Prophet Moses said this, that you'll be taken to Egypt in ships. If you go to, everybody know that Deuteronomy 28, 36. Alright. And the Elohim shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way of I spake unto thee, and thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondman and bondwoman. And no man shall buy you, meaning nobody shall redeem us. And that's what happened to us when we said that we wanted to go back to Egypt. We got taken to this Egypt in ships. Okay, Hebrews, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. You can show everybody that how we always wanted to run into Egypt, and how we eventually did in the book of Jeremiah, and how that those people never come out of Africa after the Babylonian wars ended, is that you have the book of Ezra, Nehemiah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. They covered that 1% that was taken to Babylon and made it home in 538 BC to 430 BC. And it's a proven fact that the Queen of Heaven worshippers never come up out of Africa. That'll be us. And we said that we wanted to go into Africa to live, as I have proven throughout the whole Tanakh history from Exodus all the way to Jeremiah. You know what I'm saying? We wanted to go to Egypt, and we went. And here we are now. All right, shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite